thanks for coming to another live. And today we're going to be talking about galactics. And I have a very special guest today, Tanys, oops, other side, Tanys, who is a friend, a teacher, a mentor. And she was kind enough to come on my show today. Tanys, do you want to tell us a little bit about what you do?
Well, first of all, I'm honored. Thank you for having me on. What do? I do stuff. I guess you want more detail than that. So I'm an energy healer, intuitive energy healer. I am a channeler. I am a Galactic Ambassador, Celtic Shamanic High Priestess. I do all sorts of different stuff. So it's a variety. I do crystals and all that fun stuff. So that's what I do when I say I do stuff.
Well, and you do some galactic stuff too, right?
Yeah, Galactic Ambassador. That was one. So I'm a Galactic Ambassador.
And what does that kind of?
Go ahead.
Sorry. Well, yeah, I think my internet's lagging a bit here today. Sorry, guys.
I think so. Yeah. I was like
wondering what yeah.
So a Galactic Ambassador.
Galactic Ambassador do?
Well, that's a good question. That was what I asked them. So it was I didn't know. Like, we have soul contracts for these things, right? So we never know exactly sort of what we have in store for us, because the soul contracts come up due and you start acting out on them and things just happen, right? So for me, it just happened that one day I was in watching TV. I was actually watching Adam Apollo and Ruben Langdon on interviews with Ed, or interviews with extra dimensionals on Gaia. And I was sitting there watching, and I actually had to leave and come back. And when I ran back, I was totally glued to the screen for some reason. So those of you that aren't familiar, Adam Apollo is a Galactic Ambassador as well. Anyway, so I'm sitting there watching this. This is before I knew anything about Galactic Ambassadors, but I was totally glued to the screen, which should have told me something there, right? Anyway, so next thing I know, the room fills up with all of my galactic guides. And I'm like, hey, dudes, what's going on? What are we here for? And they're like, are you ready? Are you ready? And I'm like, okay. Because usually they have my best interest at heart. So, you agree.
Right, yeah.
So they're like, woo! They're sending all this love at me, which is overwhelming. And I sit there and start crying and watching TV, crying, and nobody else in the world knows what's happening to me but me. But
yeah.
Anyway, I didn't even know what I was saying yes to at that point. And then later on, I said, I asked the guides, what's that all about? And they're like, oh, well, you're a Galactic Ambassador. And I'm like, okay, what does that mean? And their favorite one, it will become apparent. All right.
Yep.
Well, I guess we just accept. So that's how it started. And then in 2019, I woke up one morning with my crown chakra. And this may feed into one of the other topics that we had discussed, but my crown chakra felt tender, like it had been burned. And so I didn't know what that was about. And I went and did some healing work on a friend of mine. And I noticed my hands were really different. So with Reiki, it's really warm. With Aqua Lead, it's wavy feeling. And this was almost not tingles, but kinetic-y feeling, right? Yeah. Little, as if something's going across your hand. And I was like, I don't know what's going on here. Maybe I broke it. I don't know what's happening. And at the end of the thing, she sits up and she goes, whoa, that was intense. I'm like, are you okay? I might be broken. My hands are doing this weird thing today. Right. And she's like, no, it was amazing, but it was intense. And I'm like, interesting. And the next day I was doing a soul retrieval share with a friend of mine. And I was just getting ready to leave. And he was like, I said, this energy is going in my hand. Here, what is this? And I asked him to feel it. And he's like, whoa. I said, I know. Am I broken? He's like, you're not broken. and he's an angel communicator. And so he
Right.
tapped in, and they were like, yeah, so that's a new energy you're bringing to the earth. And again, I'm like, what am I supposed to do with that? what do I do
I
with
don't
that?
remember signing up.
Wait, you can't just give me something and not tell me what to do with it.
Yeah.
So my friend handed me paper and a pen. He said, here, go write. So I went down to my car, and I'm like, all right, it was a nice day. Rolled the windows down. I'm like, all right, what do I need to know?
Yep.
Next thing I knew, I had 5 pages about a new healing modality called Nukti.
Nice.
And I was like, okay, fair. I don't know what necessarily I will be doing with that, but so I just used it for a few years.
Mm-hmm.
Then all of a sudden they start telling me to teach it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well, you give me a manual and then we'll talk.
Yes. Please, guidelines.
And so, I hadn't, of course, slowed down enough to actually listen to get the manual yet. So that was kind of the thing. So they were trying to get me to slow down to listen. And anyway, so then, of course, they sent 4 of my intuitive friends after me. I really want to learn that thing that you do. I'm like, yeah.
They like to nudge.
Of course you do. So, yes, I ended up teaching Nukti for the first time in that March. And, of course, I did sit down and get a manual, which was great. Mm-hmm. And so I've been using that. And when we did when I actually did the class, this is part of how I got into this story, because it's part of the ambassadorship thing. During the class, we were told to do this mudra. So one of my friends was in the class, Jen, and she said, they've been telling me to do this mudra. And I'm like, okay. She's like, I wasn't supposed to show you, but now I have to show you. And we were taking a break.
Hand positions, right?
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there was a specific hand position, and they'd had her doing it through the class. But they said not to do it with me until the time was right. Thanks. And so all of a sudden the time was right when we were taking that break. So I close my eyes, she closes her eyes, we do this mudra. Next thing I know, I'm standing in front of Commander Ashtar Sheeran from the Galactic Federation. And he does this. And so it's like, go down on one knee. So I go down on one knee in front of him. Like I know what I'm doing. I don't know. And this is in the astral, folks. So this isn't like in our physical. And so I go down on one knee, and he does this like knighting thing with like a staff sort of thing. And then he helps me up. He puts his hand on my chest, and he says, you are now one of us. And I was like, okay. And I had a whole bunch of people behind me, and there were these other 2 commanders. And of course, again, all that love, high vibration behind me, and I'm sitting there crying, and my students are coming back from their breaks, and they're like, we love you. Are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'll tell you what's happening when I get back. So I got back, and and I didn't really know what that meant, really, even then. Right. And tuned in afterwards and told that was me, like, being initiated, or, right, yeah, as sworn a Galactic Ambassador. Yeah. As like a Galactic Ambassador and a Galactic teacher was what it was. So
that sounds so awesome.
That was the more like it was probably 10D, but anyway, it was in the astral. And then how spirit works, it's always serendipitous. And so I have done a bit of channeling of Commander Ashtar Sheeran, and then so this would be another few years later, or a year and a half anyway. And I was telling a friend of mine he's not like into the spiritual stuff as much as we are, and I was telling him about this channeling, and the whole time I'm like, I don't know why I'm telling him about this. It's not his thing, right? And but I'm like, God love him, he's putting up with me. Right. And I tell him about all this, and at the end he says, so I have a friend doing an ET conference. would you like to meet him? Maybe you can like volunteer or something.
Right.
And I heard a huge yes. And I was like, apparently it's yes. Thank you. And so I met with this man, and he was the vice president of the Alliance for Extraterrestrial Diplomatic Contact, which is an international organization. And they are working behind the scenes with to get some changes made at the United Nations with the Geneva Convention. And they have the money to build an embassy for ETs to come down. So they have a place that's nonpartisan, right? Because that's usually what happens. And so, yeah. So I have a chat with him. I tell him my whole story that I just told you all. And, you know, that what they're doing is trying to create support, right? So get people that are willing to support the organization, because in order to have political clout, you know, they need to have support. And so I was saying, you know, you should talk to Adam Apollo. He said, yeah, I have an appointment with him next week. I said, okay, great. Can you like let him know what a big part of my journey he was? And he said, well, if you're going to be involved, you can tell him yourself. I was like, oh
gosh,
wait, what? Well, yeah. Are you free Friday? And I'm like, I guess like my answer is yes.
Your favorite celebrity or something, being like, yeah, why don't you tell them yourself?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And anyway, so I've been involved with the Alliance for Extraterrestrial Diplomatic Contact. I ended up as a Galactic Ambassador through them as well, because that's what they do. And so I have had 2 different roles there. I was lead ambassador for a while for like all of the volunteers. And then I started a podcast with them, Bridge to the Galaxy. And so that's where I interview people in the ET field. And we bring out tons of information, and it's lots of fun. And I have interviewed Adam Apollo and Ruben Langdon. So,
well, and I'll be sure to, after we're done here, I'll be sure to link that channel so that people can go and find those videos. Because, yeah, I've had an opportunity to watch them, and they're very interesting to listen to. Definitely learn a lot.
Yeah, it's amazing. They're wonderful people. They're, you know, I love doing the interviewing. It's I learn something every time, and it's just fascinating. So, yeah. So Galactic Ambassador, it's really about. If I could sum it up, I would say educating. Humans.
Well, and as Jules said here, so much to learn and staying adventurous.
Really, it's just being open and saying yes. Right. I had no idea that I would end up doing this kind of thing, and here I am. So, and I've had a few visits. You know, I have had ET encounters as well. They're multidimensional beings, so it's not in the 3D, but they've been definite visits in terms of their consciousness coming here and actually interacting with my consciousness. So that's been pretty cool. My first encounter was I had a pain in my breast at one point, and I went to the doctor and was arranging to have a cool. Ask your questions.
Jules. Jules. Feel free to ask anybody that has questions. You know, please feel free to post them, and we'll happily answer them or try our best to.
Absolutely. Hi, Rosie. Yeah. So first encounter, I had this pain in my breast. I had made an appointment to have a mammogram because, you know, that's the 3D thing to do. And that was important. And it was, you know, painful. So needed to make sure it wasn't more. Before I had a chance to get to the mammogram, I was sleeping one night and woke up feeling like I had a suction, like a vacuum on there, on the spot that had been bothering me. And I woke up in a start and saw one standing beside the bed. And I was like, and I just blinked my eyes and it was gone. So it was like very, like fraction of a second. but it was definitely something there because I definitely felt it.
Right.
And then I went for the mammogram. There was nothing on the mammogram, and I never had any more pain. And I had daily pain with that.
Oh, wow.
I never had any more pain in that spot.
That's amazing.
After. So I had a healing. So that was before I was even really heavy into my journey.
Yeah.
So I was quite shocked by this
Right,
being here.
Yeah.
And you question yourself. You're like,
Right.
did that really happen? What was that?
Right.
But then I can't explain.
Yeah.
I couldn't explain at the time why all of a sudden the pain went away and there was nothing on the mammogram. And
right.
Okay. So that was my first encounter with them. And I've had numerous times where I've gone to ships or whatever, been called into meetings and stuff like that. And probably the most noteworthy for me, or the most, I guess, surprising one for me was I had a whole delegate of praying mantis beings arrive in my backyard. So I had just finished doing a class in my sunroom, and I hear in my head, "May we speak with you, please?" And I'm like, okay. And I look around and there's this 7 or 8 foot mantis being standing just outside my door. And I was like, Archangel Michael, can you come with me? So he did. And I walked out and ended up looking up at this guy. And he's like, "We understand you're a Galactic Ambassador." And I'm like, "Apparently so, yes." He said, "Could you please pass on the message that we are not nefarious. We are here for humans' betterment and to help you with your evolution." And I said, okay. As I'm looking up at this being, he says, "Thank you very much." And he does this and turns around and waddles off towards the back of the yard, where I notice there's 5 more waiting for him. So, and I came in, and one of my students was, she sees energy blobs. She doesn't see a lot of detail, but I turned to her and I said, "Are you seeing anything out there?" And she's like, "Well, I see 6 shapes. That's what I see of energy." I was like, "Okay, thank you. Not losing it. Great."
Excellent.
Excellent. So so that was probably my most sort of closest to physical, I would say,
just showing up in your backyard.
They just showed up in my yard and they told me I was a Galactic Ambassador again. And I was like, okay, I guess that's confirmation. So
I've been starting a couple of questions here, but I just wanted to say hello as well to Christina, who is actually my aunt.
Hello, Christina. Aunt Christina.
So exactly. You got it. Yeah, my mom's the middle child, and she's the next youngest to my mom. So
nice. Awesome.
So
and we have Rossi.
Yes, I saw Rossi popped in. Jamie also popped in.
Hello, Jamie. How are you?
Wandering Mountain Bardic Path. So
nice.
Her and Gerald do a lot of do some shows together that I always like to tune into.
Awesome.
Do questions and answers and everything. So do we want to answer a couple of questions and then maybe get into the Starseed stuff? Sure. So give me one moment here. So the first one, so Jules says, "I've gone out into the Earth's atmosphere, and while flinging myself into space, a tall light being telepathically said, 'We need you here,' and had me work energy on hotspots of discord and war."
Beautiful.
It's very interesting.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So what kind of light being was it? Did they tell you what kind of light being they were?
Yeah.
That would be my question.
Or do they have a specific shape? Yeah.
Because there's a few different ones.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Which here? Let's see what she said here. I don't know if that's the answer to that question specifically. But yeah, if Jules, if you can maybe let us know if you remember any specifics about them. Rossi said, I was at Griffith Observatory Saturday, saw Arcturus and Vega. Thought of my Arcturian guide.
Yep. So that's what the guide was that was in my room, my bedroom, that did the healing. I met him a few years later, of course, and he's an Arcturian guide named Rigus, and I work with him for a lot of my etheric surgery work and energy work.
They're great healers. I've had, firsthand receiving end, but they're great. Jules said, I was so, where is it here? She said, no, we just ran energy. That was it. I was so freaked out. I didn't know what to do.
So I wouldn't say just ran energy, because that's a huge service to the earth. That is exactly what we need right now, is running all that energy. And, light workers, that's what we're doing. So many people come to me and they're like, I don't feel like I'm doing enough. I'm like, but you're here for a healing. You're healing yourself. That is the biggest thing that we can do, is to do our own healing, because one high vibration person can affect the vibration of 25,000 people.
You got it.
So if that's the case, let's all just work on our own vibration, and we're going to raise the vibe of the earth, right?
Right. Jules said her mind was blown. So this is going back to the experience she had. Kept going out with what I would just call earth energy workers. No real faces, dark blue cloaks, no hands out, just sending.
Cool.
And then Rossi said, all of this is still new to me. That when you were talking about the mantis beings, she says, like, still cannot see or hear them, working on it.
It'll happen when it's meant to.
Exactly.
Divine timing on all of this, right? I still have a lot that's going to come in. They've told me to prepare for stuff. Just like they're wanting me to do this galactic shaman program.
Right. Did you want to talk about that a bit?
Sure. Yeah. So I've been told that I'm to get this going by August 8th, the Lionsgate. Mind you, they weren't specific about the year, but, but I do feel quite a strong nudge right now. So I'm thinking that's it. So it'll have a bunch of galactic healing modalities. But I mean, the essence of a shaman is that you can travel to different worlds, right? That's what they do. They travel to the different worlds. So part of the class will be journey work to the starships, to different planets, wherever it is that we're meant to go with whoever is in the class at that moment, right?
Right.
I'm just going to trust that. We're going to take our galactic guides and we're going to do some travel. So we're going to meet them first of all. And then we'll do some healing modalities like Aqualite, which is an Andromedan healing, and Nocti, of course, which is a Pleiadian.
Right.
The etheric surgery. And I'm also working through another modality myself, an Arcturian healing modality. Right. So that will likely be paired with the etheric surgery piece from the Arcturians.
Okay. Yeah.
And then I'm also working through a book on a Venus one. And you and I were downloaded Nigera, which is Syrian in its origin. And so it's about shadow work, right? No shadow.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Nigera
that was an experience. That's for
sure.
Why
don't you talk about that? Talk about how that happened.
Sure. Yeah. So it was a couple months ago now at this point. And so what happened is Tanys has what she calls enlightenment evenings. So here, if you're local to Ottawa, we both live in Ottawa. First Monday of every month, you have kind of social get-togethers. We talk about different topics, whatever happens to come up that day. And that night in particular, there was 3 of us. So you, myself, and one other friend of ours, I guess I can phrase it that way. And so the 3 of us are sitting there. I think we were having a discussion. It was kind of just going like a regular night. And then I just remember you saying, I feel like we need to do some healing work. So just like sitting in some healing energy. And it had been a really rough, I think, couple of weeks. So I'm like, go for it. Yeah. And so we all kind of just got comfortable. I remember, I think I laid down on the couch, and we just kind of started holding the energy. And that's when you, I think, started getting information coming through.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, first
and
the
then-
energy that was coming through was different.
right. And that's, I think, what, because I think you were trying to give, Reiki, and you're like, this doesn't feel like Reiki. This is something different.
Which was, and I think I said, this feels different from any of the other
Yeah.
ones that I've channeled.
Right.
And so I'm not quite sure what it is, or does it feel different
Right.
to you guys? So I was kind of like running the information off of you, right? To see, or bouncing it off of you to see what you thought. And then we started getting more information.
Yeah, we all
about
each
it.
kind of got individual pieces. Like I was getting symbols, I was getting like hand positions and stuff like that. I'm trying to remember specifically what Carla, like our friend, was getting, but it all kind of pooled together into this kind of knowledge
it was
that we
all
have now.
it's all for me.
Right, exactly.
it all came together. It was a package deal. So
right.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it'll be nice to look into that further.
Yeah. So we'll see what that brings. Yeah. And so I know that I've had lifetimes in the Pleiades and as a Syrian.
Right.
Well, I think I was a Pleiadian that visited Sirius. I'm not sure that I actually lived there, was Syrian. I think that I may have lived there as an ambassador.
Well,
before.
And I think you and I have that in common. Like we both have that kind of Pleiadian at some point past life. And actually, Rossi had a quick question here. Do you know what starseed I am? I was told I work on grids and the Athena. I do not recall any of it.
Yeah, you can ask them to tell you. So tap into your guides and just ask them to tell you what it is that you are. Yeah, because you've got a couple.
I was going to say that probably complicates things a bit.
So it's kind of difficult to tap into that. I'm feeling like there's some Arcturus and Vega, which is interesting. So
and Gerald popped in there to say hi.
Gerald and I just spent an hour together on Twillow Talk.
Yes, you did.
Yeah. Awesome. He has a question too.
Yeah, Gerald has a question here. Do you think off-planet beings are interacting with all life on Earth, but only some are receptive to seeing and experiencing them?
Well, I think they're around. I think interacting depends on what you mean by interacting. Interaction means that we have to be receptive to seeing and experiencing them, I think.
Right.
Do I think they're here being involved and like protecting, guiding, that kind of thing? Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. I do think they're another in the other dimensions. And so they're probably all around us all the time.
Yeah.
And we just are not aware unless we're tuned in to that frequency, because they just exist at a different frequency.
Well, they want us to be aware.
They do and they don't, right? I mean, I got called into that meeting one day with all of a sudden I was feeling tired, and that happens when I'm being pulled to another dimension. So I was sitting here and I was like, all right, fine. I close my eyes and I allow myself to go where they're pulling me to. And I was drawn into this meeting. I walked in and there was like the Pleiadians and the Arcturians are sitting across the table from each other. And the Pleiadians are like, let's go down now. And the Arcturians like, we can't do that. There's a non-interference law. We can't interfere. Right. And they're like, but they need us. Yes, we are planning. Just
in time.
Anyway, I walked in the middle of this conversation and they all stopped and looked at me. Are they ready? Are you ready? I'm like, well, I'm ready. I don't know about the rest of the world.
Right.
And I'm like, you're going to check with those other ambassadors down there too, right? Like, so yeah, so they're definitely having conversations about that.
Well,
so when you're saying
there too,
okay, influencing those who don't notice them, I would say yes, because I see them as guides. So like your guardian angels and your angels, like oftentimes we'll have those things come through as messages,
right?
And so we don't necessarily hear it as though somebody's speaking to us if that's not in our hearing range. but we'll often have a thought that comes through, and that can actually be them talking to us. That thought goes through our mind. So influencing that way, yes. They do respect free will, though, above all. So they're not going to influence us to do something that we're not okay with.
Right.
So
Yeah. It's not the visual of like, the Greek gods with the map, pushing little like human.
No.
Well, and Jules just made a comment here saying, sounds great, really. Perhaps this is my clue. Healing with Reiki does not appeal. And I mean, there's so many different healing modalities out there. Yeah, listen to the ones that kind of speak to you in that way.
Yeah. Yeah, and they feel very different. They like the Nukti feels different, Nigara feels different. Like each healing modality that you or each energy modality that you take, each of the energies has specific characteristics or qualities to them that that's how they work on different things in our system. That's how they work in different ways. That's why some people resonate with one healing modality more than another, because they, like attracts like. Yeah. So if you're more of that vibration, you're going to like a different healing modality.
The metaphor that popped in my head was almost the like diagnostics, where you have like an X-ray, but then there's also ultrasound, but then there's MRI and CT scans. They're all that little bit different. They can all see inside the body, but they're all that little bit different of an energy.
Yeah.
Well, here, Gerald said, is there a class to learn Nukti?
There is a class to learn Nukti. Nukti is, it's like an advanced class. So it is something that you learn after you've taken either, what they've told me is after you've taken either all of the aqua lead or all of the Reiki, because it is an advanced, and it's quite intense actually when you're channeling it. So, but there is a Nukti class, and it's Nokti. That's how it's spelled.
There we go. I just put that in the chat there, the spelling of it for you.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. After participating in a healing.
Yeah. So I agree. After participating in the healing, they shanghaied me, and we affected dissipation of fear. It was aimed at the war in Ukraine to protect against nuclear threat, also during a last election.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, I think that they hold the energy too in different ways. Right. So also there's that piece too of influence.
So where Rossi was mentioning starseeds, do we want to maybe talk a little bit about what is a starseed? If some people are wondering what that is.
Absolutely. So a starseed is, so we're going to talk about this because we do have a little presentation here, but the overview,
there we go. Trial and error.
Is that a starseed is basically, we have a soul energy, and that soul energy has to come from somewhere, right? Because energy is neither created nor destroyed. And so that soul energy can come from or through different, all of it comes from source originally, but the soul energy can come and have different iterations on different planets. And so it carries the energy of those planets, right? So for instance, my energy signature is a hybrid. So it's angelic and Pleiadian. So I'm a hybrid in terms of my soul energy. That doesn't mean that I am an ET at this moment, right? It is not that my physical body is ET. My physical body is very much human, for better or for worse. But that it talks about that initial spark of energy, and so where that's from. So starseeds are people that have that spark of energy that has different ET qualities within it, and so we carry that through in our different personality characteristics and all of that stuff. So in this presentation, which we're just going to do for the first little bit of it, we talk about the starseed characteristics. So one of the most common ones, of course, is Pleiadian. And I'm not going to read all of that. You can kind of see it there. I have give a little bit information, personal information on it, but that gives you a bit of an overview. And
you should be able to
Pleiadians,
pause it.
yeah, you can
those
pause if you're going to rewatch. So Pleiadians are very much the healers. The other thing to say about the ET races is they're like us. They have different colors of skin. And so you'll see this one has blue. My Pleiadian, I have 2 Pleiadian guides. One has like blue similar to this in terms of skin. Another one that I have has a little more green. So it's almost like a teal green kind of color. And then there's others that are like the Icelandic. So you've probably seen those as well, which they're tall, often very fair in color, quite pale in terms of like white to skin tone, but very, very pale. And Commander Ashtar is actually one of those. So he's Pleiadian. So they're usually very tall. They have this, they really are very much beautiful energies that are here to help. They're also very playful, and they're a lot of fun to work with. So I love my Pleiadian guides. They're great. I remember I would go along humming all the time, and I realized that I didn't even know the songs I was humming. I didn't know where it was coming from.
Right.
And now I know that Oni and Meek, my 2 Pleiadian guides, hum all the time. And so I was just hearing what they were humming and repeating it. And I had no idea, though, right? Because that was before I was awakened. So, so Pleiadians, they're a lot of fun, definitely. Very loving. So the Arcturians, again, they come with different, skin tones. I picked the picture of this one because he looks much like Ragus, who is mine, the one that I work with. And they're very like sciencey, kind of they're highly empathic, they're very, I say sciencey, but it's like it says near the bottom there, drive to build and design. So they do a lot of that. It does say science and engineering and stuff like that. So that's really very much their focus. I believe they may have developed the healing beds, the crystal healing beds that all of them are using now. All of the ETs use them. But I believe the Arcturians may have been one of the first races to develop those. Cool. And they've become commonplace now. But, they're quite fascinating. I had a visit to one of the healing ships one night, and fascinating to see. And then Mintakan, this is not one you hear about a lot, but they're a watery planet. So they have, much like you see here, more mer people sort of thing. And so these people would really, if you're a starseed, a Mintakan starseed, you're really going to love the water. Okay. You could be a Sirian and love the water as well, because there is a planet in Sirius constellation that is mostly water as well. But if you're Mintakan, that is definitely going to be something you're drawn to, the ocean, aquatic creatures and all of that. Okay. Atlantean and Lemurian, sorry for the weird color there. I don't know why that's like that. So these were primarily Lyrans that came down and inhabited Atlantis and Lemurian. So we're going to cover them in a minute. Andromedan. So these guys it's a very watery planet too, not as much as the others, but very much about that. And so they have they're really very strongly connected to nature, but also the cosmic energies. And very much, they're very laid back, easy to work with. And their energy is basically the aqua lead energy is very connected to Andromeda and to like our elemental beings here on Earth as well. Right. So it kind of links the two, which is nice. And then we have the Sirians. They are lovely.
Yes,
again, great sense of humor. Mm-hmm. And this is, of course, the one with Nigera. And so beautiful thing for that. They see beauty in everything. They're very much into that.
I've thankfully
just-
had, well, I mean, through channeling the Niagara, I've had the opportunity to meet two of them now, as you say, like, in the astral. And yeah, they're just very, very welcoming. Like, you get that very kind of welcoming energy.
They're full of love. They're beautiful, beautiful beings too. So if you are a starseed, you will have some of those traits. Orion, they have, my understanding of that, it says here they have a terrific sense of humor. What I haven't actually spoken to too many Orions, but the one that I did had almost a British sort of sense of humor, like that dry,
Okay, yeah.
but super funny. Yeah, that kind of thing. And so they're very like goal oriented, right? And so they're quite, it's like they can be very focused on something. Right. But then they can have a good sense of humor as well. So they are a nice blend of that. Okay. And Vega. So Rossi, this would be one for you to take a look at and see. Okay. They're a little different. I haven't actually worked with any Vegans. She says she's Arcturian.
Said, yeah, she studied math and science.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure why I was getting Vega for you. I was getting told that. So we'll see. There must be some other stuff. But it's quite possible you're a hybrid, or that you've had planet or lifetimes in Vega. Okay. So like I said, you can be a hybrid and have numerous things in here. You may have past lives, so you may really associate in that way as well. Okay. Procyon. So I've had a lifetime as a Procyon, and they're really just energy.
Yeah, I was going to say from that picture.
Yeah, they're really just a ball of energy is all you see. So the light being that you were talking about, Jules, may have been Procyon, because the one that I met, he put his energy in the shape of a humanoid just for me, for my comfort. And he told me that. So, but they look just like light. But they're lovely. Like they're very warm beings, and they're very high vibrational. They're like, I think it's, what was it? It's 20. They're from like the 20 something dimension.
Right.
So
yeah.
They're not physical.
As you said, they don't need a physical body to
exactly
do their thing.
Yeah. And then there's Lyran. So Lyra, of course, was the planet that was blown up during the reptilian wars. I have a friend who watched her planet, Lyra, get blown up, and she's had memories of that. And it was pretty upsetting, of course, for her.
I bet.
So there's kind of two different sets there. Of course, there's more than two, but two main species that we see from there, or races, and that's the feline and the avian. So they're very, it's a magical one. They're very ancient beings, usually, Lyrans. Right. And so they're lovely as well. They're definitely leaders and very magical in their beingness. And then we have draconians, right? These are our reptilian species or race. And they're very driven in terms of their agenda. So they're very assertive, confident, right? There's a mix of draconians. There are some that are not so great, but there's also a group of them that are. So in terms of that, we wouldn't necessarily know if we don't know them. So just stay fairly open to it in terms of that, because they're not all bad. We tend to put people in good
humans, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And really it is just like that. And then here's the mantis beings. So these are the ones that came to see me. And they're lovely. They're ancient beings as well, and been around for eons. And they work a lot with the Greys in terms of, these guys are more, they tell the Greys what to do more. So in terms of that, but they work with them, of course, because they're high vibration beings. So it's not about power over in
Right.
terms of them. And then we have the grays. Right?
Yeah.
And again, they're not all bad.
Yeah.
Right.
And they're the more, I guess, textbook, when we talk about like extraterrestrial, it's kind of the one that people kind of imagine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Well, I think we've had a little bit more encounters with them, a few more encounters with them. So people have more of an understanding of that. So, and then there's Hadrian. So these ones are a little bit not as known, but it's just another one that you may have some lineage there. I don't know them very well myself either. I haven't actually met any Hadrians, but yeah, in case it's in there, just in case you tend to associate with that. So, yeah.
Well, it's good to just understand and have, that knowledge, just in case we do end up having an opportunity to meet one of them, then we already have that knowledge.
Well, I think it's coming soon, right? They're definitely, I have heard numerous channels talk, and this is certainly the message that I've been getting and been told was 2027.
Ooh. Is it coming
so
up
we're not
quick?
Talking very far. I mean, that may adjust because it really does depend on our ascension. If we can stop, having wars and all that stuff before then, because we need to be more peaceful with each other before we introduce
another species.
Another species that look entirely different to us.
Yeah.
Right? So, yeah.
I had started a comment here. So Jules had said, I think I've seen Pleiadian presence during a meditation 30 years ago. I was wearing a big bowl, like atmosphere chamberish representation device, 8 to 10 feet tall.
Yeah, they're pretty tall. Mine aren't that tall. Mine are like probably between 7 and 8 feet though. The bowl atmosphere chamber, I'm not familiar with that, but it's possible.
Well, and I mean, even like we went through a bunch of starseeds, but there's more than even those that we listed,
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Only
there's
the ones we know about.
Thousands or more, in terms of races and species out there. These are just the ones that we've had any kind of sort of interaction with that we know anything about, right? There's way more. There's the Eben as well, which is another one that I don't have in my slides. That one's been talked about a fair bit. Although the Eben, I think they go under the gray category. They're one of the ones that are grays. But yeah, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun.
Jill says, "Where is he?"
It's a wild adventure.
Computer wants to work. There we go. It's a wild adventure. That it is.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So is there?
Yeah, Rossi. So the just checked in for you, Rossi, in terms of the Arcturian thing, and I would say yes to that. I would say. Yeah, I'm glad you can do math too, because I can't. But
not my strong suit. Yeah.
Give me an alien to talk to. I'm good.
Feel free to keep answering questions. We have about 10 minutes left or so, so feel free to keep asking your questions. In the meantime, so we talked a bit about the galactic healing stuff. I don't know if you have the energy tonight to maybe give people a little sample of what that feels like.
Sure. Yeah, we can do that. I'm a galactic mutt. Yes.
Aren't we all?
Well, I would be
Nothing
too
wrong
if
with
you're looking at that. I've had numerous lifetimes on different ones too, so I associate.
Yep.
You can actually find that information out in your astrological chart. So, yeah, so something to know. Okay, so let's do some Nocti first. Let's send them some Nocti. So anybody that is, I'm going to send this to anybody on the call who is wanting and willing to receive Nocti. Those that are not, please move it on to someone whoever is, or whoever needs it. Yeah. So that is my intention. And let's just call those energies in. Okay, so first, Oni is jumping up and down here.
Yep.
He's like,
All good.
you gotta tell them how excited we are. Okay. So they're really excited.
Yay. That's
Yeah.
good.
I'm going to
Thank you for
send
being
him
on the show.
He's very giggly. Okay. So, all right, here comes the Nocti. There we go.
So
Okay,
how did
please,
that feel?
Yeah. Let's put that in the comments. How does it feel? Okay. And then why don't we both do aqua lead? Okay.
Oh, sure.
So we're going to send some aqua lead now. So this will feel a little bit different. Here we go. So you want to feel the qualities of the energy. Notice any differences between these two.
So Gerald just made a comment there about the Nocti. He says, my stomach is upset with the Nocti, sort of swirly like on a roller coaster or a tilt-a-whirl.
Interesting. Okay. So
I tend to find that Nocti is more intense for me. For me, it's in my chest and like in my heart area and then in my throat. But I do agree with you there, Gerald. Like it is a lot more intense than some of the others, for sure.
Mm-hmm. It is definitely, and it's a different energy, right? If we're very earth-based, it might not resonate the same way, right?
Well, and so, Rossi says it's soft, but I'm not sure to which one that she posted.
I think that was there before we started doing the aqua lead.
Okay.
Yeah. So now let us know what the aqua lead feels like.
Yeah.
Okay. And while you're putting in the comments, yes, you found Nocti soft. Okay, cool. So while you're putting in the comments about aqua lead,
I'm just going to post that so people can, there we go.
Mm-hmm. Now, why don't we do some Nigera?
Sure.
Okay. So we'll both send some Nigera to you. Okay. So how did that feel? That's Niagara.
Can you remind me of the new spelling, Tanys? I know that they changed it from
N-I G.
but it was lowercase g, right?
No, I think it's
No.
but it's all one word. So it's N-I capital G, but then it's A-E-R-A.
Oh, there you go. You're here as it's happening, people. It's that new that we are still trying to figure out the spelling.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think that's how I saw it.
Yeah. So Gerald said, I love me some Aqualead. Calm and bubbly.
Yeah.
And then Rossi said, Aqualead was a wave, smelled water.
Beautiful. That's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, how did that last one feel for everybody? We're still, any feedback you can give us will help us in developing.
Exactly.
While they're posting their comments, did you want to maybe talk about if you have anything coming up in the next week or next couple of weeks you want people to know about?
Yeah. What have I got coming up? That's a good question.
I know I have some stuff.
Just went over this.
That's not video related though.
No, exactly. Yeah. So I think we are doing some filming for one on Thursday.
Okay.
So stay tuned for that. It's going to be a joint open mic. So it will be
Ramsey,
the North American open mic and the UK open mic.
That's exciting.
We're joining together for a special feature. And then on Friday night, I'll be doing open mic with Ramsey. That's at 7 p.m. And of course, there's Twillow Talk every Monday at 5 Eastern Standard.
And you had Gerald on today.
We did. We did have
so
Gerald.
Everybody go back and follow Tanys, and then you can go back and watch that.
Yeah, absolutely.
What did Rossi say? She says, Nagira activated my hands. High level of crown activity. Felt like head is in the air.
Yeah. It clears some of the shadow work is what it is, because Nagira is no shadow. So you're probably feeling like you're rising up a little bit with that. So
yeah, it was a very pulsing, I think. We've kind of finding it's very pulsing energy.
Yeah, it's like it was like
the metaphor I've given people before is like one of those like ultrasonic like instrument cleaners or like ultrasonic like jewelry cleaners where it's like, where there's that high vibration and it breaks up the dirt or breaks up the whatever to clean it. So that's kind of the image I have in my head when I send it. Yeah.
Gerald, I just want to ask if I may do some healing work on you. So if you can just let me know.
Yeah, if you want to comment and then she'll
because I'll do it after the show, but there's something that I'd like to work on. Yeah, you may not have needed it.
Yeah.
So just let me know if I can do a little bit. There's a bit of etheric surgery I'd like to do. Thank you.
He says, yes, you have my permission.
Great. So I'll do some of that after the show. Thank you for that.
And so for me coming up, the next show is on the 24th. So the next live will be on the 24th, which is a Monday. And it'll be same time, 8:00. I'm going to be doing a deck review. I was going to actually do it earlier in the month, but then Jen graciously came on and we did that video. So that was great. So I'm going to be doing a deck review of the animated tarot. The link for that's already up. So if you're wanting to look at the deck ahead of time, the links are all set up for that. And then the next one after that is the 7th of July. We're skipping a week or pushing it a week because of, for us here, Canada Day ends up, I think, landing on a Monday. So I'm going to leave my time free for family. And so I'm going to do that on the 7th, which is actually a Sunday. So normally I do my lives on Mondays, but it's actually a Sunday because Tanys has her enlightenment evening on that Monday and I don't want to miss it. So yeah, that'll be a Sunday show instead of a Monday. But again, it's already up. The link is there. So if you want to just set the notification button, like and subscribe, you won't miss it. And, do the little bell button and all that fun stuff.
Don't forget to subscribe.
Exactly. Oh, and Rossi said, that's how my hands were feeling. Lower part of my left hand is still pulsing.
Beautiful. Yeah. Ground it if it's too much. If it doesn't go away now, but just ground it. Okay.
But thank
Yeah.
you so much for coming on today. That was a great discussion. And if anybody else has any other questions, after the show, feel free to leave a comment, and I can for sure pass on that question to Tanys.
Absolutely. I'm happy.
And we'll get you some answers.
Yeah, that's
In the
awesome.
meantime,
Thank you so much for having me. It was quite an honor. I appreciate it very much.
Hope everybody has a great night, and we'll see you again next time. Bye.
Lots of love.